Hi, I'm One Right Mango. I'm a Chun player who recently hit Diamond rank, and I thought I would take some time to share some of the strategies and ideas that I think helped me get up to Diamond and finally kind of break through that Platinum barrier. Um, so this isn't going to be like a general Chun guide. I'm not really going to go over her good pokes and basic confirms and anti-airs and stuff like that. Just some more supplemental information you can hopefully add to that more solid base game plan. Um, Today specifically, I wanted to talk about crouching heavy punch because I think this button's really good and underutilized by a lot of Chun-Li's. Um, so I think it's kind of deceptive at first because it looks a lot like it's supposed to be an anti-air. It's kind of got that angle, and a lot of crouching heavy punches in this game are anti-airs. This one does not work super well as an anti-air. It's got kind of a dead zone. Its first hit hits pretty low, and it's just not very rewarding. What it is good for, though, is attacking grounded opponents. Because you'll notice she takes a little bit of a step forward there, so it's got very good range. This makes it good at, combined with her walk speed at, closing the distance at opponents who are turtling, and also great at whiff punishing, which is where it really shines, because it has great reward on punish counter, going into stance medium kick, which goes into your heavy, your very high damage routes, like your Kikoken loops in the corner and stuff like that. Um, but I think where this move really shines is specifically at on block, and how it can help to open up opponents. Because if you'll look, you'll see every time your opponent blocks this move, they lose almost half of a drive gauge, which is kind of a lot. Um, and also, you're only -3 on block. So this means that we are safe. So an opponent doing reversal crouching light punch, their fastest move, it won't hit us, right? Um, so we can safely just chip away at our opponent's drive gauge anytime we can make them block this move, and that's really great. The other great thing about this move is that we can actually frame trap off of it um, by canceling into heavy kick legs. You'll notice there that we trade with our opponent's 4-frame jab, but we're left +4 on that trade, so we can actually combo into our own jab and a knockdown and continue our pressure. This makes it so our opponents have to, if you can hit this consistently, it makes it so your opponents have to start to respect this crouching heavy punch on block, meaning you can do stuff like pressure resetting into itself to take away almost an entire drive gauge. That's a little risky though, because crouching heavy punch is pretty slow. So more realistically, you might be able to get something like that jab, which is another frame trap, and you could drive rush and extend with meter after that, etc. Um, so this is great because crouching or heavy legs is also only -3, which means it's safe. So we can very safely take basically an entire drive gauge every time we can make our opponent block this frame trap. Um, and because of perfect parry, our turn does not even necessarily have to end after heavy legs here. Um, so if an opponent tries to take their turn back with a jab here, if we can time a perfect parry, it's still, we punish them and it's still our turn, right? We get to continue our offense. So that can even get to the point where we can start making our opponents respect heavy legs, right? Even though we don't have a cancel option off of it. Now you'll say though, what beats parry? Throw, right? Obviously. So an opponent trying to throw us after heavy legs, that will beat us going for perfect parry or us going for a pressure reset. But Chun-Li can do um, instant air, legs, light legs, using a Tiger Knee motion, and you'll punish your opponent's whiffed throw tech on the way down. They won't be able to throw you because you're in the air. And you're actually +4 after that, so you can combo into standing jab, and do something like, standing jab, standing medium punch, crouching medium punch. It's a pretty tough combo, so you'll want to practice it a lot. I'm not very consistent with it even yet, but it makes this situation after heavy legs very threatening on block. It's pretty tough. You got to make sure you time the jump so you're not, on the ground for them to throw, and you have to make sure you get the input right away for the air leg, so you actually punish them. But once you get it, you can get something very, very solid like that. Now this is very solid, right? We can use this kind of mind game to take away a whole bunch of our opponent's drive gauge by doing something like bam, pressure reset, bam, pressure reset, cancel, jab, jab, etc., etc. And we can start to really melt opponents' drive gauges with this. And this will force our opponents to feel threatened. They don't want to go into burnout. They'll start to do things like jump or press buttons to try to get out of pressure resets, or parry, or do reversals. And that leaves them open to options like throw or block, that are low risk and very high reward. The important things to know here is that we're not really forcing a real mix-up, right? We're not really putting our opponent in a strike throw scenario. We're not forcing them to guess higher, lower, left, or right. The only thing we're really forcing them to guess is whether or not we're going to frame trap off of this. What we're really threatening is that drive gauge damage. So if we turn off the drive gauge recovery, right, can do like bam. Every time they block 2 of those, that's an entire drive gauge. Every time they block 1 of those, that's like 3/4 of a drive gauge. And that will very quickly start to attack drive gauges, especially if they're, respecting heavy legs because of perfect parry and the throw bait. There are some very solid counterplay options for our opponent, if they know what they're doing and they're very alert. Because heavy legs is -3, if we want to pressure reset with a jab here, this jab will lose cleanly to our opponent doing 4, 5, or 6 frame attacks. Trade almost always unfavorably with an opponent doing a 7 frame attack, and will beat opponents doing 8 frame attacks. So in order to continue our pressure here, solid opponents will start to mix up between 4, 5, 6, and 7 frame attacks to make the perfect parry harder to hit. Because it's pretty easy if they're just autopiloting jab, which a lot of people will because they don't know the scenario. But if they're mixing up the timing a little bit, it can be very, very difficult to hit that perfect parry window. Ideally, you'll be able to recognize, you'll see them going for a crouching medium punch instead of a jab a couple of times, and you'll recognize, okay, I need to delay my perfect parry a little bit. But even if you miss the perfect parry window, so what, right? You're still safe, unless they walk up throw you, and that leaves them open to other things. And the other thing to remember is that putting yourself in these -3 scenarios versus a lot of the cast is not really a big deal, with perfect parry and options like that. But versus characters with command grabs can be very risky. Because especially versus somebody like Zangief, or a Manon with all of her medals, the damage potential for getting thrown there is very bad, and you're leaving yourself essentially point blank -3, which is exactly what a grappler wants. So in those matchups, you might want to consider using this very sparingly, or trying different offensive options. But there are also options you can do to beat an opponent doing command grab here, right? You can neutral jump it and get a big punish. So, there are options, but the risk reward is definitely off in command grab matchups. Other than that, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. With this move, if you're using it in neutral, again, it's a lot better at whiff punishing than it is anything else. It's very solid on block, as we've been talking about here, but especially like out in neutral, it can be prone to getting counter hit because of this step forward, especially by low attacks. But I think it's very, very solid for the ways you can threaten your opponent, and especially in the corner, right? The reward is just so good, like we talked about, because even on normal hit here, meterlessly, that's a safe jump, and that's even the full stomp safe jump, so you can do all of the crazy setups like that. So yeah, good luck. I hope you guys find this tech useful. Like, comment, subscribe, all that nonsense. Go play some Street Fighter.